All right, welcome to Adventures in CRE. I'm here with Tucker Wells. We're talking today about finding your first job in commercial real estate after college. And so, Tucker, you obviously talk about recruiting, about careers, about jobs, about all the things that fall under that category. And this is a really neat article because I know a lot of people coming out of college are looking for, obviously they want a job. That's number one, right? But you want the right job. You want to position yourself the right way. You want to maximize your opportunities. So with that as the framework of this particular, of our content today, let's kick it over to you and just see, all right, we're coming out of college. What do we need to be preparing to do so we can get the best job in today's market? Because this, this article could live 2, 3, 4 or 5 years down the road. And what do we need to do today to position ourselves for the right first move in our career? I'll put it over to you that way, maybe be a little broad, but let's start there.
Yep. Thanks, Sam. You mentioned the best job and the right job.
Right.
And let's think about this in an analogy of chess and checkers.
Yeah.
Chess being the right job, checkers being the best job. I'll talk to you from a personal experience. And I talk to a lot of students right now who are accepting jobs, who are going to jobs, and the job that's right for them is probably not the one that's the shiny one, that's the best paid one, that's in a market 3,000 miles away from them, but it looks really fun. And so that's checkers.
Right.
In our blog post, we talked about, hey, maybe you want to accept this job 9 months early because it's stress-free. You might have student loans like I did. You might not want to go through the whole headache of recruiting because in commercial real estate, you got to talk to a lot of people. And it's quite difficult. Or you might be looking for a job and in your gut, it's just not the right one.
Right.
But you still accept it because, hey, it's in New York City. It's a fun market and it pays me good and it looks good on my resume. But it's just not really the right job, but you take it just because it's fun. And so we see a.cre sees a lot of these kids and a lot of these students going in and putting themselves into a position like that, where I fell into that category. And like many of the people out there who accepted jobs due to those reasons, I lasted 4 months and I moved back to Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't in a good place. Not liking your job, it's difficult. You go out of college and you have all the freedom in the world, and then you're at a job that you don't like, and it's really difficult. On top of that, you're in a new market, so you might not know people. That adds another level of stress. And so that's really the checkers move approach.
Yeah. Well, I want to stop you real quick because I get to thinking, this article specifically is about your first job after college, right? And so like you said, we've got people, in fact, we talk with students all the time who are accepting positions well before graduation, 9 months in some cases. I was talking with somebody today who's already accepted a job, and I think that we just started the second year of their master's program. And what's interesting is you have the anxiety and the pressure that comes along with school, and then what happens after school. You don't want to sit on the job market indefinitely. You don't want there to be that gap, and so it would make sense to take the first opportunity that comes your way. But there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And when we talk about chess and checkers, I think it really comes down to fit. Where are you going to shine? And if it were me personally, I'd really sit down and I'd say, hey, money is great. Okay. But we can always talk about money down the road or in future opportunities. What do I really want most? I think for me, if I were going into the job market for the first time, I'd be looking for opportunities that fit my skill set, where I can really, really shine and add value to a company, or, whether big or small, right? And it's like, where are you really going to look like a rock star? What have you done in your schooling, extracurriculars, career previous to schooling to really position yourself to win. And I think the checkers move is to say, well, I've got 3 job opportunities. That one pays 150. This one pays 120, and that one pays 110. Well, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to take the 150, right? But I think that's probably, while money is in the, it's in the equation, but really, if you want to have long-term success, I think financial is just a small part of that equation, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. My friend moved to a job from LA to New York, working 100 plus hours a week, not getting sleep, not getting health. And so for me, it's like, if I'm in shape healthy wise, then I'm going to produce results at my company.
Right.
And I think people are just focusing on maybe one aspect of their life. Um, and I also, coming back to it, think that you need a lot of experience. The first one might not be good, and that's all right. You might not know, hey, I was a really good recruiter previous to college. Maybe I should go back into recruiting. That's my story. Um, and that's why I encourage people to take a bunch of jobs, do a bunch of things. So when you're a sophomore, junior, you have, oh, I have brokerage, I have development, I have property management, and you can really dial in on, I really like the property management because I got to deal with tenants all day. And so that's my first inclination is really tell people, hey, go find jobs, go do jobs. You're in school. You might not ever be able to kind of have this amount of jobs in such a short amount of time. That's why internships are so great. But yeah, coming back to it, it's all about fit, Sam.
And I think, it's a balance too, right? Because you couldn't say, hey, experience is such a broad term, like get some experience, I think that it's like, you want a match, you want a pairing of who you are with who you're going to go work for. And if you really understand, and by the way, I think that in an interview, in the context of, you get opportunities, what should your focus be? It's not just to sell yourself. It's to say, well, hey, before we go too far, I'd love to hear more about your company. Obviously, you go into the job interview knowing and doing your research, but get the subjective side. Like, I see that you guys are a multifamily value add company. That's your main thing. But what are you doing? What are some of the initiatives internally to try and improve? And what are you doing to innovate? And where do you see the skill sets that I would bring? Like, where do you see me fitting a role like mine fitting into what you guys are working for? And just putting yourself into that business's formula, right? They're talking to you because they're trying to see, well, is this going to put us where we need to be? You need the same mindset. Is this going to put me where I want to be? Right. And in some cases, I mean, the reality of today's job market is, your first job, probably you won't be there forever. Right. And if that's the case, well, what do we want to prioritize? We want to prioritize, opportunities to develop our skill sets, to shine, and to really do some of those things. So it's always going to be tempting to go after money. That's one. And you always hear, I think, very vague advice of get experience. Where I think the success is really going to lie in the get experience piece of advice is, well, how am I going to get it? What is really going to fit with where I'm at today? And then saying, hey, who would I need to be? Who are they? And then pairing those things up so you can go from, phase one of your career to the most successful extent of what you could be, right? This whole thing is reasons you want to accept a job. It's not just money. And then I think when it comes to experience, it's nuanced. You want to know for yourself what you want for your experience before you take a job and before you take into consideration, these other companies. And it's got to be a give take. You don't go into an interview just saying, hey, I want a job. I want a job. You want to interview them to an extent to say, hey, where do you see me adding value to what you're doing? What initiatives are you really going after, and how do you see my skill set, or what kind of skills would you like to see come into your company? I tell you what, if you do that, by the way, you're going to stand out against everybody else that's going out for a job, because they're asking checkers questions. So I went on a little bit of a rant there. I'll let you take it from there, wrap up, and maybe just give some final thoughts on your first job in CRE.
I was going to go there too, Sam. How can you interview the company? Because you're walking in suit and tie thinking, hey, I'm going to get interviewed, I need to be sharp. But no, this is your career. You have to take your life into your hands. You got to take initiative, and you have to interview them. I was on the phone with a recruiter, with a company today, who reached out to us for recruiting purposes. And I asked, how much was your revenue? What was your revenue in 2019? What's your predicted revenue going to be in 5 years from now? These are all questions that I ask. Another one, hey, how'd you treat your employees during COVID? I think that's a really good telltale sign to be like, all right, if something goes bad, this might be how they treat me. And so you got to go in with the mindset of, hey, do their core values match up with me? What is their mission statement? Do I align with that mission statement? And you have to go in with the mindset of, hey, I'm going to interview these guys, and I'm going to put myself out there enough to where I do not have to take, this job. And so really it comes down to preparation as well. And we'll be going into further details about how to prepare in other blog videos.
Yeah, and I want to. There was one thought I had, just to provide one extra layer of color to this conversation. I think it matters. Just because we're interviewing that company, they're interviewing us, and we in turn are also interviewing them. It should also go. I think it goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway. You need to be professional. We are not interrogating them. We're not asking questions that kind of give off the perception that, well, we're unsure about you. It's more like getting to know a friend. You want to know what they're about. So I think in the interest, and just to have a really good dialogue with somebody that you might potentially work for, go in understanding that you need to relate to these people. So having some questions prepared to ask them, about them, how they got into this, what drives them, all those kind of things. That's going to position you as a professional. Because again, we don't want to come off as unprofessional and say, well, what's in it for me? That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that you go into every interview saying, what's in this for me? That would be a horrible move, and nobody will hire you at that point. But I do think it makes sense to take some time to establish mutual trust, and just an open dialogue. So Tucker, thank you for this content. We look forward to the next video about careers and about jobs. And appreciate it, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. See you guys.